Okay guys, Private Jack here, and welcome to part 4 in my series on how to create a butterfly and get it into Source Filmmaker. So, let's carry on with modeling up this butterfly, and I mentioned in the last segment that I hit a couple of keys and it brought up a good point that I keep forgetting to do because I'm really bad at doing this myself, and that is saving the model. Okay, so as you go through your model, what you should be doing is as you make a major change to the model, you should be saving the model just in case Blender crashes or you decide that you don't like what you've done and want to go back a step or that kind of thing. So basically what we're going to do right now is we're going to actually come back into top view and we're going to file, save as, go into the butterfly folder and create a butterfly blend file. So butterfly, and I hit enter and it automatically adds the blend and save. So I've got this saved. So anyway, make a long story short, what I mean by you should be saving at every major change, well, let's just get rid of the wing here, and we'll get rid of the other wing here, and we'll get rid of the body here. So I finished off this particular aspect of the butterfly. What I should have done was did a file, save as, and called that one butterfly. But because I've already got all my models saved up in this one here, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to increment my blend file. And to increment, what I mean is I'm going to add a number here to the end of the file name. And it's quite easy to do in Blender. All you do is do a plus. Okay, so, and then save the file. So now I've got two blend files. I've got butterfly 1, which is the head. And I'm going to reopen up that original butterfly now. Open butterfly. Now I'm going to get rid of the wings, X. And after I finished doing the body, I would have done an incremental save. So file, save as, and from butterfly 1, all I have to do is click this plus button and it'll increment it up by 1. So I do a save. So now I can go back to just the head, or the head and the body. Let's open up the original butterfly again. This time we did the bottom wing first, so I'm just going to delete the top wing. File, save as, and I'm going to increment it again. I don't want 1. Increment it again. I don't want 2 because I've already got it saved as 2. Click it again. Now I've got butterfly 3, and you can tell when you've got a file name already used because the actual bar here will stay red. Okay, it means that something's wrong and you want to check before you actually do the save. So I'll save that, and now I'll open up the butterfly again. I just finished the top wing, so now I'm going to do a file, save as. See, it's red. It means that I already have the file name butterfly. Click the plus. I still already have a file name butterfly 1 plus 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 4 is available. Save as. So now I can go right back to where I made the wing, where I made the top wing, where I made the body, where I made the head, and I can start over if I have to. So that's very important. After every major change that you make in your model, you should do a file, save as. And the reason why I increment is, let's say I screwed up on this, so now I want to go back and start over again. So I do a file, open, and butterfly 3, open that up, and now I can start remodeling that top wing again. Once I'm finished that, I can oversave butterfly 4, or I can just increment it again and carry on. Okay, let's get 4 opened and carry on. So here's the butterfly as we have it now. It's only half, and that's okay. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to work on the antenna. So come back here into top view and see how we've got this little bend in the antenna. Well, I could sit here, I could add a cylinder and create that bend manually, but I'm going to do a shortcut method here, and I'm going to talk all the way through this one, so it might get a little bit long. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a Bezier's curve to create this antenna. So putting my cursor back in the center, shift cursor to center, I'm going to add a curve. So shift A and a curve. And I'm going to select Bezier. Okay, so here's my Bezier's curve. And I'm looking down on it from the top view, which is good. This is where I want it to be, because when I work with the Bezier curve, you want to be looking at it from the top view, usually, depending on how you want to bend your curve. I'm going to take that curve into edit mode now, and what I'm going to find is I only have a one segmented curve, which means that if I pull on this end of it, it's going to bend and warp and shape all across the entire curve. I'm going to grab that end and I'm going to pull it down here to right about there. Now, see how this bends and curves like that? I can control that bend by moving the points on the actual Bezier. So, like that. I want to pull it down a little bit more. Maybe bend it a little bit more, like that. Now I'm going to grab this end of the curve and I'm going to straighten it out like that. And all of a sudden my curve is completely off the model where I want it to be. So I need to move my curve, right? I'm going to bring this down and put it onto the head right here where it needs to be. So I've got this big warp in here and it's kind of like out of sort. I don't like what I'm seeing here. I can grab this end of the actual curve now and I can pressing G grab it, and I can grab it and start making the curve a little more evenly spaced. Grab this one, press G to grab it, pull it in like that. Now I'll grab this end, I'll warp the curve out, grab this end, pull that one in with a grab like that. And I'm finding that it's not curving quite the way I want it to. Grab that, pull it in. I want to keep it as, well, that's not too bad. Grab that one, move it over here, try and keep it in the center. Now, let's say this just doesn't want to cooperate with me. And what I'm finding is that I need to add more segments. Well, I can do that easily, and I can add them in the center of the curve by selecting both ends of the curve, like that, coming over here and doing a subdivide. Now I've got 3 curves, and it makes it a little bit easier to operate because the curve starts bending in the actual place between the center points of the curve, right? Here to here, this will bend, and then this will bend between here and here. I can add as many subdivides as I want, but this looks like it's going to work for me just the way I want it to work. I'm going to pull that one all the way down to the end of the actual antenna. Grab, pull it all the way down. I'm not liking the spacing, so what I can do is I can grab this curve and this curve, move my cursor to selected, and I find that it pops way the heck out here. I don't want that. So I'm just going to grab that, and I'm going to press G to grab it and just pull it a little bit more, just to make that curve a little more evenly spaced. And the reason why I want it evenly spaced is because we're going to add a modifier to this curve excuse me, that is going to thicken it out and make it an actual tube. So 7, I'm looking down on the curve. This is the direction of the curve. I'm going to come over here into my properties panel. I'm going to select the curve, and right here, this fill, I'm going to change the fill to full. And let's see, preview renders, render U, I'm going to turn that up to about 4. No, I'm going to leave that at 0. Here, down here, I'm going to make my depth. I'm going to change my bevel depth. And I'm going to change that up. I'm going to change my resolution. And as soon as I change that bevel depth, notice that this thing actually turned into a tube. Now, this tube right now is my Bezier's curve. Okay, if I come into object mode, my curve is going to disappear, but this is going to remain just like that. See that? Now, what I want to do with this curve is I want to increase the resolution. I want it a little bit more rounder. So 1, maybe 2, 3 might be a little much. Let's leave it at 3. Okay, let's come back into top view and see how this is actually following the actual antenna path now. I might want to grab that. Grab, pull it over just a tad. This one here I might want to straighten out a little bit. Kind of like that. And that's looking not too bad. Okay, so now you're going to say, okay, now that I've got the curve in there and it looks like mesh, if I actually save this model, how do I edit this so that it becomes flanged and thick like this? Well, what we have to do is we actually have to convert the curve into mesh. And that is quite simple to do. Once we have the depth and resolution that we want, let's see, maybe we might want to extrude what we want. No, extrude only pulls it along the actual curve. We don't want offset. We don't want depth. We don't, oh yeah, depth. Depth will do it. We'll make it a little bit thicker, like that. Pull this over a little bit so it stays on track. Kind of like that. We're trying to keep it in the center of that actual texture, because we're going to use this texture as our actual texture when we finish. I'm going to grab that one, we're going to pull it down a little bit like that, grab that one, pull it into here, kind of like that maybe. And now we're ready to convert this curve into an actual mesh. So to do that, what we do is we come down here to the curve menu, click on curve, and it doesn't give us the opportunity to do anything. So what we do now is we take that curve, we go into object mode, and with that curve object selected, come down to object, and here we get the opportunity to convert to mesh from curve, meta, subsurf, or text. We're going to select this option, and we're going to convert that curve into mesh. So now my curve has disappeared. I don't have a curve anymore, but I've got this nice, neat cylindrical tube that I can now edit like I would any other mesh. 7. Okay, we're going to grab that edge loop right there. We're going to pull it off to the side just a little bit like that. Same with this one. Like that. And it's just like it's editing mesh now. That one there, we're going to flange out. So with our pivot point on median, that will put our pivot point right in the center of that edge loop. We're going to scale that out like this. Maybe pull it over a little bit so that we stay inside. Grab that one. I'm going to grab it with a G. And I don't have my screencast keys turned on anymore because I reopened Goldarn model. So let's display the screencast keys. There we go. That one moved a little bit, so we're going to grab that. Kind of make it like that. This one here we're going to scale out just a tad. Select the edge loop. I'm holding down Alt and right-clicking on, holding down Alt and right-clicking. Okay, the reason why this isn't doing what I want it to do and select the whole edge loop is simply due to the fact that there are a bunch of doubles in this particular mesh. I'm going to select the whole mesh now, and I'm going to remove doubles. Well, it didn't remove any doubles. Why are you not selecting my entire edge loop? Oh, remove doubles. Let's pump up the value here a little bit and see if, oh, there goes 125, and we don't want to do that because now we're making a very rough cube type, pentagon type tube. So we're going to back out of that. That one selected nice. This one doesn't want to select for some strange reason. What about the rest of them? That one selects nice. Might be because I joggled that one just a little bit too much and it just doesn't want to play nice. So into wireframe mode. Oops, Alt-OS key, not what I want. Into wireframe mode, and we're just going to select that whole edge loop with a C select. Select all those vertices. I don't think I have a face in there. Let's have a look. There's the reason why it's not selecting. I've got a face in there. I don't know why I have a face in there. But we want to get rid of that face. We don't want any interior faces. So we're going to X and delete the face. There we go. Any more? Shouldn't be. Face may have been developed when we actually subdivided and it threw a face in there just because it did. Back into vertex select mode. And I'm still not getting that. Control L. I don't want to select the whole tube. I just want that edge loop. Let's do a remove doubles on that. turn that back down to 0.01. And it removed 2 vertices. Okay, so somehow or another with that face in there, what that did is it broke the continuity of the actual edge loop. So now, let's find out what happens when we, so there we go. Now we got it. So 7, let's just scale that one out a little bit, like that. Now we're starting to make our flange. That one, scale. A little bit bigger. Grab it. Pull it over a little bit. Scale. 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 Now we're getting smaller again. Scale. And I don't like this edge loop being where it is. I'm going to grab that one. Actually, I'm going to grab that edge loop. I'm going to cursor to selected. I'm going to change my pivot mode, base it on my 3D cursor. I'm going to grab that. And I'm going to scale that back into the 3D cursor. It gets smaller and it pulls it back at the same time. And then we're going to start doing extrudes on this one and pulling them out and closing them off again. Extrude. Now, if I try to extrude on the Y, oops, Control Z, don't want to split it. If I try to extrude on the Y, it's going to try to go up and down like that. If I try to extrude it on the X, let's Control Z out of that so that we don't have an extrude. If I try to extrude on the X, it's going to want to go that way. And if I tried to extrude it on the Z, it would start trying to go up and down like that. What I want it to do is I want it to actually extrude straight out from where it is. So now I got to play with my actual gimbal, transform orientations. I'm going to change this one to view and see what happens. Didn't change my orientation the way I wanted it to. So let's try local. Still not. Let's try normal. It's a little bit better. We may have to just actually play this one by hand. Normal. Gimbal. Yeah, we're going to have to play this one by hand. So we're going to extrude. And then we're going to grab with a G and just pull, extrude with a grab, and just Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Now I've got that. We're going to extrude. And we're just going to grab it and pull it out a little bit. We're going to change our medium point back to our pivot point back to median because we want it to scale based on the center of that edge loop that we've got selected. Scale that down, pull it in, that, extrude, grab it, pull it out a little bit. Scale it, extrude, grab it, pull it out a little bit. And this one here, we're going to scale it. A little bit too much on the pull, so we push G to grab it, pull it back in a bit. And again, we've got that hole down here in the middle. So one thing that we could do is we could just go back into our top view. It's still a little bit too much. Grab that, pull it back in closer to make it a little more flat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to extrude, right click, merge at center. And that will close that off, and then we can pull that tip out just a little bit to give us that final rounding off the actual tip. So let's have a look at this. Z. Okay, might be a little bit of stuff that we want to fix up here by pulling some edge loops. Grab, pull that one this way just a tad. Same with that. Grab, just a tad. And that looks a little better. Okay, so now we've got the antenna built, and we're ready to finish off our model. What do? File, save as, add an increment, and save. So now I can go back to before I actually added the antenna. With that, I'm going to close off this particular video because we're running probably about 20 minutes, and then we're going to, next video, we're going to get into the mirror modifier and show you how we put this thing together. So with that, I'm going to say Private Jack out.